What's going on YouTube? It's Sabby Sabs and I'm back with another video. Alright guys, today I'm going to make you one of my favorite meals in the world. Even though it's my favorite meal, I only make it once a year. And once I start making this, you're going to find out why I only make this once a year. But before we get started, please don't forget to hit like and subscribe below. And today I am making the Mississippi pot roast. So for the Mississippi pot roast, you're going to need a couple of items. One, obviously, you're going to need the pot roast. I tend to use a pot roast that's at least 3 pounds or more because I like to have leftovers. You're also going to need this beefy onion by Lipton Recipe Secrets. There are different types of the onion mix by Lipton. I prefer to use the beefy onion one. You're just going to need 1 packet of that. And then you're also going to need the Hidden Valley Ranch seasoning packet. And there's different ones for this one too. I prefer to get this one and not the dips. And then another item that you're going to need is pepperoncinis. Now I choose to get the golden Greek pepperoncinis because I think these have a little bit more flavor. These other 2 items are optional, but this is just generally how I like to do my roast. So that is potatoes. I prefer to have the red skin potatoes because they hold their shape a lot better, especially for crock pot meals where sometimes the potatoes can get a little too soft. So I tend to go with these ones. And the other optional item is carrots. I like to put carrots with my roast as well. So let's go ahead and get started with the roast. I'm going to heat up a little bit of avocado oil, and this is going to go really good with searing the roast because you want to sear the roast before you put it in the crock pot. So let's get started with this. So I'm just swirling the oil around in the pan and making sure it gets nice and hot. Go ahead and add a little bit of salt and pepper. So I added the Himalayan salt by Trader Joe's. And then I'm going to add some of this coarse brown pepper here. Just a little bit. And you want to do this to both sides. It's the second side and then a little bit of the black pepper as well. And now we're going to go ahead and throw this into the pan and we're going to let this sear for a second. And you want to hear that sizzle, you guys. You really want that sizzle to come through. That means the oil is hot and the pan is really hot and it's good to go. And it's going to sear a lot quicker when you do it this way. So definitely you want to hear that sizzle. And then you want to go ahead and flip it over to the other side and you want to sear that side as well. I use avocado oil because avocado oil is really good for high heat and high temperatures. You can use olive oil, but I find that olive oil isn't the best for high temperatures, high heat. So I use avocado oil, and it's also healthy as well. Some of you may be wondering, why am I browning the meat and not just throwing it into the crock pot? Because when you brown the pot roast, you just want to sear it just a little bit. It locks in the flavor. So that is a key to having a really, really amazing pot roast. You want to lock in that flavor, seal in those juices before you put it into the crock pot. So when I said get all of the sides, get all of the sides. Notice I even flipped it here on its side and I'm searing that side part as well. And I'm also going to turn it over and you see that red part right there. I'm going to flip that over and I'm also going to give that a little bit of a sear as well. And you can see the difference of what it looks like on the side that I just seared. And then I'm flipping it over to the other side to sear that as well. These roasts are heavy, you guys, so make sure you use heavy kitchen utensils like what I'm using here, because this is not something you can flip with a spatula or with a fork. All right, guys, so I've transferred my roast to my crock pot now that it's nice and, you know, a little browned on the outside. And that's all you want to get, is just a nice little brown color on the outside to lock in those juices. You're not trying to cook the pot roast in the pan. You just want to get it a little brown. And the crock pot that I'm using is the original crock pot. Like, no, seriously, it's the original. So, and this is a pretty big crock pot. For a roast this size, you're going to want to use a big crock pot. I think this crock pot can probably hold a small whole chicken. So just something to keep in mind when you're trying to make this. So now that we got the roast in the crock pot, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get started on my potatoes and my carrots. So now I'm cutting my potatoes, and I like to cut them in half, and then each half I cut into 4 pieces, as you see here. And again, I like to use the red skin potatoes because, like I said earlier, I've found with slow cooker meals, these types of potatoes tend to hold their shape a lot better. They don't get too soft, which is what I don't want. I don't like the potatoes to be like mushy. So here I am just cutting away. And I think I used about 5 large potatoes. It was either 5 or 6. But again, I was planning to make sure I had leftovers. And now I'm going to go ahead and cut my carrots. And I like to cut these in large chunks, as you can see there, because again, they are going in a slow cooker and you don't want them to get too mushy. And I used 2 large organic carrots straight from the root. Rinse them very well, toss them in. All right, guys, and now it's time for the Holy Grail, which is this beefy onion by Lipton Recipe Secrets. Some people will tell you that you need to put this on first before you do the potatoes and all that, but to be honest with you, all this stuff is going to mix in and sink down together anyway. But I did leave space in the middle on the meat, or space in the middle of the meat for me to put this on. So I'm gonna go ahead and sprinkle this on, and I like to get some of this on the potatoes and the carrots too. So I'm just gonna sprinkle this all over the roast, and again, I'm gonna try to get some of this on the carrots and the potatoes as well. Be generous. All right, next you want to sprinkle on the Hidden Valley Ranch seasoning pack. So let's go ahead and put this little guy on there too. And then you want to do the same thing with this one. Go ahead and sprinkle it all over. Get it on the roast, get it on the potatoes, get it on the carrots. Again, you want to make sure you use the entire packet, even though it looks like a lot. And you didn't think I forgot about those pepperoncinis, did you? These are very important to this recipe. So let's go ahead and grab a couple of these. And then what you want to do is just kind of just lay them like on top of the roast. And if you're worried about the spice level with these, you can always get the mild ones. But honestly, I find with this recipe, it doesn't really, you don't really get as much of the heat from this. It's more so that you get the flavor. I'm gonna put a couple in there. I like to put a couple extra. My husband loves to eat these, so they get stuck in the jar. Pepperoncinis. All right. And now we are still not done. One final piece to this, and then I'm going to slide these carrots over on top of the roast. And that is this guy right here. Yep. Here we go. All right, guys. And then you just put a whole stick of butter on top of the roast. And this is the reason why I do not make this often. I make this once a year, and that's pretty much it. And it's because it's just not healthy, but it's very, very yummy. So we're going to go ahead and start this. I know it looks a mess right now, but all this is going to break down and it's going to be really yummy. So I'm going to go ahead and get the crock pot started. So then you want to go ahead and set your crock pot on low. And then you want to put this on for, I'm going to do 8 hours. So it's 9 o'clock right now in the morning. So this should be done right around dinner time. And then you just leave it alone and let it do what it does. So we'll come back after this is all done and I'll show you what it looks like. I just want to go ahead and check and see how it's doing. I'm just going to lift the lid here for a second just to show you, so you can see everything has, you know, it's made its way towards the bottom of the crock pot. And that's what I was telling you guys before. Don't worry about the fact that all that stuff was on top of each other, because it sinks down. All this stuff will break down. And notice one more thing I want to show you. Notice that the only liquid we had in this was that stick of butter. I didn't put any water or anything like that as a liquid for this meal. And that's very important, because one of the biggest mistakes that people tend to make with this the first time making it is they put the stick of butter on top, but then they're like, oh, that's not going to create enough liquid. I need to put water or add something else to the bottom. Not with the Mississippi pot roast. You don't need to do that. As you can see, the butter creates a generous amount of liquid, and then the overall steam that you get from the food just by having the lid on and it slow cook. So it's not quite done yet. Looks like we still have a little under 2 hours left. So we still got a little bit more time to go, but I can tell you that this smells so good already. The whole apartment smells good, you guys. I just want to eat it up. Yum, 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 yum. It's done. I'm just going to take you down here, and you can see that my crock pot automatically switches to warm once it's done. And then you're just going to take a fork and you're going to go ahead and just shred this. And you shouldn't have any difficulty doing this. After it's been simmering for 8 hours, it should be very tender, where you can just use a fork and it'll just come apart. Like, this is what I was saying earlier. It just falls apart. Like, it's really, really good. Trying to toss it around with the potatoes. But you put your fork on this and it's not falling apart, then you need to let it go for a little bit longer. But I've never had to do this longer than 8 hours on low. So it's not the prettiest thing when you're shredding it up, but it doesn't matter. This is really good. I'm trying to tell you guys. One thing I like to do is, like, if you like a little bit of salt in yours, because the beefy packet will give it the beef flavor, and the ranch packet will give it that ranch flavor. But this is not a highly seasoned meal. So if you want a little bit of salt, I just use a little bit of seasoning salt. And I just put it in like so. And then it's a lot of liquid, so you can be a little bit generous here. And then I just mix it up. And the reason why I do that is because, or the reason why I put this in later on, is because if you put the salt on it when you first put it in the crock pot, the problem with that is that, remember, you're simmering this on low for 8 hours, and the longer you have all that salt on it, it's gonna penetrate like all the way through, and that can make it too salty. So that's just one thing to keep in mind. You don't want it to be too salty. So that's why I wait until it's done, and then I add the seasoning salt. And just a little bit. You don't need a lot. And then I'm pretty much going to put this on a plate, and we're going to eat. I'm hungry. I went ahead and I put it on a plate, and one for me, one for Babe. And this is what it looks like once you take it out of the pot. I'm just going to go ahead and be a little fun, and I'm just going to add a little bit of parsley to make it look cute and pretty and gourmet-like, and like, cute like that. So yeah, it looks really cute, huh? All right, guys, so here is my Mississippi pot roast, and I'm just gonna take a little taste test of this and see how it tastes. Gonna grab a little bit of meat, gonna grab a little bit of potato, and here we go. Oh my God. Amazing as always. It's really good. Not to toot my own horn, but it is amazing. So I'm going to finish up this food because I'm hungry. But that's all I have for you guys today. Feel free to come back for more videos in the future. Bye, guys.